Hello there. Today's video is about a half a dozen or so things that I'd like to talk about, but which I don't have too much to say about. None of these warrant a video on their own, so I'm going to lump the lot of them together. To start things off, we have this hide painting from the Great Plains. It depicts two armored warriors. They've got buffalo helmets and great big shields, and armor on the horse that seems to just hang off it in folds. This is, as far as I know, the only surviving depiction of plains armor. Moving on, we come to this illustration of a warrior from the Pacific Northwest. Now, some of you will have noticed that this looks very different from surviving Pacific Northwest armor. In fact, I think it bears more resemblance to Champlain's illustration, though in a more refined shape. I have a hypothesis to explain this. Now, the Pacific Northwest was the only region to maintain the use of its armor after the introduction of guns. So it's possible that this was the earlier form, and what we have surviving is the later form, wherein the lower half of the armor has just been discarded in order to run faster and better close with gun-wielding opponents. Sort of like what happened in the Renaissance when full plate armor got discarded for just thicker breastplates. Next, we have another Mississippian pipehead depicting an armored warrior. Of note is the space underneath the armpit. If we look on the right side, we see a strap connecting the breastplate to the backplate, but if we look on the left side, we see another plate covering the gap. This has potential bearing on my recreation. It's possible there should be another plate covering the gap on the left side, as that's exposed during archery, but counterintuitively not a plate on the right side. Interesting. Next is another Jalisco figurine. This close-up clearly shows wooden slat armor, but it's also clearly worn over something else, probably a padded cotton garment. Just a clearer follow-up to a previous video. Diving down that rabbit hole, I tried to find other wooden armors from cultures way down south. These are shin guards from Inca and Inca peripheral cultures. They're made of sticks bound with wool. Of note is how similar this is to Pacific Northwest armor. What this tells you is that this must be a pretty good design if it's used on two continents. On a similar note, here are a series of Inca helmets. Instead of being woven over wooden rods, these are woven over coiled bundles of reeds. Possibly because reeds are easier to shape and they don't involve splices. Underneath the outer shell, there are wooden reinforcements. Something to give it structure and really absorb the impacts. This one in particular I find compelling, as it reminds me of the Gastoe frame. It gives me the idea that maybe the frame of the modern headdress is just a vestigial leftover of what was once a functional helmet design. Maybe the original Gastoe was more similar to these Inca helmets than to its modern form. And maybe my design of helmet is just dead wrong. Next we have this thing here. Pinterest unhelpfully lists it as a hat. I don't know who made it, how it's made, or what its function is, but it bears a similarity to the helmet in Champlain's illustration. So if any of you know anything about this, it might be helpful to me. I appeal to the hive mind. Finally, we have an illustration of 3 Ojibwe bows. This was taken from sort of a catalog of Great Lakes bow designs. Of note is the center bow, which features a spike. Now, I saw a bow like this a long time ago, but I haven't been able to find any pictures since, so I've been thinking I was crazy. Then I stumbled upon this. Those crazy Ojibwes, eh? What will they think of next? It seems like a dumb idea to me with my modern biases, but what do I know? I'm not going to be so quick to cast judgment on things. At least a couple people seem to have made it work. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.